Hey beautiful human, Ryan Magic here. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be covering one of the biggest problems that exists in the entire world right now for the quality of the experience of our life, which is this hyper addictive device. And I'm going to be sharing how I've taken my average screen time from 5 or so hours a day to 30 minutes or less a day. And I'm going to be sharing the 7 keys to that, one by one. So let's just jump straight into the keys. The first key is acknowledging the problem that exists here. And I'm going to do it in 2 parts. Summary, this device is destroying the quality of our life. It is absolutely destroying the quantity of our life as well. Now, the average person in the world right now spends 7 hours per day on their device. The average person. 7 hours per day. If someone was 15 years old and they died the average Western world age of 80, the 65 years of 7 hours a day, it essentially equates to 28 years of their life spent on a device, their waking life. So that essentially means the amount of time that the average person, not just crazy extreme cases, the average person spends 28 years of their waking life. So that is essentially, they wake up in the morning, get on the phone, they're on their phone the entire day for the 16 average hours a day that people are awake for. Times by 28 years of their life is spent on the phone. That is so crazy. And I've been in it. That's the thing. That's the thing that really shocks me. I've been stuck in the same loop. And I'm someone that cares about living an awesome life. I don't want to waste my life. I want to have an awesome life. And I know you'd be the same. But the first thing I really want to make clear in this video is that this is an addictive trap. It's not there's something wrong with you're silly for wasting your life. It's not your fault per se. These have been designed initially for convenience, and they've just naturally been manipulated in a way, or tweaked or improved from the creators to get as much time spent on them as possible. And the reason why is because all of our social media apps, all of the time that we spend in apps is money for the owner of the apps. When you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through, or Facebook or Twitter or any platform, and you've got attention in that platform, advertising happens in that platform. So if you're scrolling through Instagram, 10 posts an ad, 10 posts an ad. You look at that, you looking at that ad is making money for Instagram. It's making, let's say, per person per day, it'd be $1 or $2. So if you think about that for the, let's say there's 1 billion people on a social media app, that's $1 billion a day. And that's what comes from our attention. And so the more attention we give, the more money they make. So they want us to stay on the app. One example of that on Instagram recently is if I post a story on there, they don't let the story upload unless I'm staying in the app. And so in the past they used to. I'd just exit the app after my story and it'd upload in the background. They changed that feature. So I have to stay in the app, because what would happen is I'd go back on the app a few hours later and I'd see, oh, the story never uploaded. And then I realized, oh, I've got to stay in the app for the story to upload? Why do I have to do that? Because they're trying to keep me on there. Because they know if I stay on for an extra minute or 2 minutes while it uploads, there's a chance I'm going to get in a scroll hole. And then I might be on there for 30 more minutes, which makes them, on average, maybe an extra billion, $5 billion, $10 billion per year around the collective total of all the people that are falling into that same trap. And that really frustrates me. It makes me feel violated. It's not like I've chosen and signed up and said, okay, cool, I want to spend 7 hours a day on my phone. But it's automatically happening as an average around the world. People aren't silly. No one's intentionally choosing to do that. It's addictive. So acknowledging the problem from a quantitative perspective, if you were to spend 30 minutes per day on your phone, that would end up being 2 years of your entire life, waking life, on your phone from start to finish every day for 2 years. That's still a lot of time in my opinion, but I feel a lot better about 2 years of my life versus 28 years of my shot on this planet in this experience. My gosh. So it is destroying the quantity of our life. We're losing 28 years for the average person of their life on their phone. 28 years. The second thing is the quality of our life. If a lot of time, if it's like on the phone, addicted, scroll hole, jump off, that has a huge impact on our nervous system. That means it creates way more anxiety. You see, we're not meant to be exposed to the level of short-term gratification, ADHD style overload of information. See, if we're living in the nature, the way that our nervous system was designed for, which is to be keeping keen alert on all the things that are happening, there's not a huge amount of information entering our field. Everything's pretty subtle. If you go into nature, have you ever noticed that you can just feel better? You spend a bit of time in nature. Might not be super obvious, but it just melts away our stress a bit because we slow down. There's less things going into our mind can settle down. So we're designed to be able to be in nature. We're not taking in as much information, but if a lion starts charging us or there's some big threat or a crocodile jumps out of the water, boom, we activate. Our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, which is fight or flight, and it pumps adrenaline and cortisol through our body, which are stress hormones, telling us danger, 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 you need to watch out, right? But because of the amount of stimulation that we have, another example, if you walk through any capital city in the world, in the Western world, any city, you're going to see 10,000 people in that day. If you were living way back when, let's say the native Australian Aboriginals, they would see maybe 200-300 different people across their entire lifetime because they lived with 20 to 50 people. So they might see another tribe here and there or congregate for some special traditional meeting or something, but they're barely seeing anyone. If we go into the city, we see 10,000 people probably across at peak hour in the CBD. You might see that many people in 20 minutes. So just think about the difference in information coming in. I don't know about you, but since I've started meditating more and slowing my life down a little bit, I feel the overstimulation of my nervous system. The fact that my nervous system's going into the sympathetic, it's telling me there's danger because I'm in fight or flight. I'm kind of reactive, a little bit more stressed, a little bit more distracted. Getting into an elevator, there's a bunch of people in there. Oh, just better check my phone. If I go on public transport, everyone's on their phone because we're in our nervous system's fight or flight response, feeling stressed, which then we feel more anxious, which means we need to try to distract ourselves with a phone, and that feeds the anxiety. And the quality of our experience goes down even more. Anxiety is debilitating. It's not a way to live. Everyone experiences it too, not just diagnosed anxiety disorder people with a mental health condition. Every single person who's in a scroll hole is anxious in that. So we got to take away the heat of this term anxiety. Do you have anxiety? Oh my gosh, it's a full condition. Anyone that's on their phone that's in overload, that's a state of anxiety. And that is not a pleasant experience. It's not clear of mind, grounded, open-hearted, being able to connect, feel joy, experience some relaxation and some peace, which is just a foundation of an amazing life. Doesn't mean you're doing the coolest stuff ever, but if you don't have that, life is not a very high quality. And so, firstly, acknowledging the problem, key 1 of 7, it is destroying the quantity of our life. 28 years of our waking life, 28 years. And then most of the time, even though you might not notice it, and this is the big problem, people don't notice it because Everyone else is doing it. If you were the only person on your phone and the average was like 20 minutes a day and you were 7 hours a day, we'd go, what is going on with this person? But the fact that the average is 7 hours a day, between 5 and 20 or so % of people spend 12 hours a day on their phone, which means 2 hours of their waking life not with screen time. 2 hours a day not with screen time. And that is meaning 8 years of their waking life is lived not on their phone, not on their laptop. It is obscene. So the problem is real. And the first key to learning how to get off this is acknowledging the extremity of what I just said. Now, I'm just going to be honest and say, I'm doing this video from a place of not being all high and mighty, like I'm got this under wraps. This affected me worse than, right in that average territory. I was spending 5+ hours a day on this thing, and I don't feel guilty about that. I just feel disappointed about it. But it's not because there's anything wrong with me. The technology is designed to be addictive. And so it takes so much conscious effort and attention to learn to get off this. And if I'm going to be really honest, I've tried so many different things to get off this for years and still been stuck on with a similar average screen time per day. So with these 7 keys that I'm going to be sharing, they're all very valuable and important, but you're going to need, if you're anything like me, all of them in your arsenal to be able to win this battle against this extremely addictive piece of technology. I also am going to name that they all help and are important, but key 6 and key 7, the last 2, are particularly important. And everything that I'm doing between here and the end of the video culminate to lead to that end point. And because they're all important and parts of the puzzle of solving this riddle. So I found this incredibly difficult. So you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just addictive. Let's move to point number 2. Got all my points written down here. So point number 2 is do your absolute best to do as many of the things that you need to do on your phone, on your laptop instead. Use your laptop for as much as possible. The reason why is because the laptop is significantly less addictive than the phone. The phone, in order to be able to move around and navigate through, we can just swipe, up, down, boot, do, do. And it's so much more fast paced, and it's so much easier to get into a scroll hole on the phone. Even though it's still possible on the laptop, it is significantly less addictive. So if I want to watch a YouTube video, and I put a barrier for myself that, okay, if I want to do something, I'm not just going to look up on Safari on my phone. I'm going to go to my MacBook and I'm going to look it up on there. And a lot of the time, the things that I want to look up, I don't even need to look up. A lot of the things that I go to instinctively do is that same ADHD style short-term gratification addictive mind that's trying to trick me because it's hungry, right? The anxiety, that reactive stress brain, it feeds on anxiety. So once you're in that stress response, it's trying to get you back on the phone so it gets back into that loop. Because if you haven't been on your phone for a little bit, notice you'll kind of have those withdrawals and you'll be straight back on. I've got to check this. Or someone says, hey, what's the weather tomorrow? And you go, oh, look it up. And you're straight on your phone. And then you go on Instagram and then you check that. And that leads you you're back in a spiral. That's how a smart, intelligent, adult human being ends up spending 7 hours on their phone a day, right? And so going to the laptop, which I'm not on all the time, I often keep my laptop in a sleeve, like a laptop cover and case, keep it in my backpack because I go from home and go to a co-working space to work that extra barrier to entry of going to the laptop is really helpful for me. And what it does is it challenges me to be present, because I can be doing anything, like driving, for example, and just be like, oh, I'll just chuck my phone on the stand and I'll put on an audiobook, I'll chuck on some music, I'll chuck on some videos. None of those things are inherently wrong, but it's all feeding that addiction to multitasking in as much dramatized intensity as possible. You know, think about TikTok. We used to have to read a book to get entertainment 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Read a book, that was like the most engaging thing, which is such a slow-paced way of consuming entertainment. And now that turned to movies, and then that turned to videos, and that turned to social media. And now you've got the biggest highlight compressed down into 5 to 20 seconds on a TikTok or on a YouTube short or an Insta reel. It's compressed. And then it's like, what's the funniest thing that this dog's ever done in its entire life? And you get that dog's highlight moment of its 7 years on the planet, 12 years on the planet, boom, in 15 seconds. You watch that, then the next dog's laugh, then the next dog's laugh, then the craziest thing that's happened in the news around the world. You're taking the full spectrum where we would go through the relax stage. We're reading a book and it's setting the scene. It's nice and relaxed and it's slow paced and it's leading in. And now we're getting addicted to what's the hit, what's the highlight, what's the peak moment. And so much for us to consume. So instead of multitasking and feeding that addiction to sensory experience and drama of satiating experiment, entertain me, instead of feeding that addiction, if we go over to the laptop, there's a barrier and we start to slow things back down. We help our nervous system go out of that false alarm state of the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system, and instead of being in that response in a subtle way in the background 24/7, there's a threat, there's a threat, there's a threat, there's a threat. It allows us to ground back, regulate ourselves and our nervous system so it can settle back to the parasympathetic nervous system, rest or digest, which is essentially feeling safe enough that foundationally we can enjoy our experience of life. You can't enjoy your experience of life and be present. You know, everyone knows the idea of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Be present. We can't do that on a phone. It's almost impossible. Yeah, because we go into that hypnotic, robot-like scroll hole and we lose all our presence. So the second key is get on your laptop. Get on your laptop. If you need to watch, if you really want to watch a YouTube video, go put aside the time. Okay, cool. I'm going to go over to my desk and I'm going to chuck on the laptop and I'm going to watch that YouTube video. And then be there with that. Don't go on the laptop, grab your phone out, scroll social media while you're watching the YouTube video and you're kind of half talking to your friend in the kitchen. Go do the thing. And to me, that's a conscious choice. I'm gonna use my laptop and I'm kind of going to a real theoretical piece of this, but practically it also looks like instead of checking my messages on the phone on WhatsApp or text message and doing phone calls through here, I'm making calls through my laptop. I've got the WhatsApp app on the MacBook, and I've kind of chaperoned all of my friends and contacts as much as possible into WhatsApp, and I do my responding to messages through there, so I can do it on the laptop. So I'm choosing, okay, cool. I need to go get back to that person. I'm going to go onto my laptop and message them back on WhatsApp. Not quickly check my phone and now I'm on Instagram and now I'm checking the weather and then I'm looking something up on Safari and then I'm getting an audiobook up and then I'm also checking Twitter and then quickly flick to email, then quickly flick to see if anything's come up on my TikTok, and then the spiral continues. So idea, go over to the laptop and see if you can export as many tasks that you would do on your phone as possible to your laptop. So for me, that looks like if I'm going to look up the weather, I don't do it on my phone. I could do it on my phone, it'd be more convenient, The problem is I'm not just going to look up the weather. I'm going to do all this other stuff at the same time and then get in a scroll hole and waste 28 years of my life on it. And that's just something that I have to admit to myself. I'm not set up for this. It's too difficult. It's too addictive. It's got a control over me. It's got a hold over me. It's just the truth. I can't beat the addictive nature of the phone. So I've had to outsmart it with really key structures. And I'm giving you all the structures I do in this video. And the laptop's a big part of that. So if I want to look up the weather, I'm going to go do it on my laptop. But a lot of the time I'll go, do I even need to know what the weather's going to be in 7 days' time? Just leave it. Just let it go. Do I need to look up how many pigeons, what's the population of pigeons in the world if I'm having a conversation with a friend? Who cares? Just get on with life. And that's one thing I've had to be okay with, because my mind's trying to trick me into going back on my phone as often as possible. And so that extra barrier of, well, I can do it if I want, but I'm going to do it on my laptop, then I'd have to get up, go to my backpack, get it out of the case. Or sometimes it's not in the case, but I've got to get up, go to the other room and check it. And it's like, do I even want to do that? A lot of the time it's no. And I realized it was just something my mind was trying to trick me on. Crazy. So, I do my messaging on my laptop. I do phone calls through my laptop as much as possible. And it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So a laptop, do as much as possible on the laptop. Cool. Key number 3, delete, delete, delete. And I'm going to go through a few categories of deletion. The first one is delete as many apps as you possibly can. I'll see if I can show you on my phone right now. You may or may not see it. It might be reflected by the ring light. I can't see through my camera right now. But if you may be able to see that. You may not. But that screen is all my apps. I've got one folder on there with some bonus apps that I kind of still need to keep as well. But I got less than a screen worth of apps because I realized most of them I may need in 2 months' time, or I still don't want to delete that even though I use it once every 6 or 12 months. Boom, gone. Anything that I don't need regularly, gone. Just delete it. Gives my mind less reasons or ammunition to jump back on the phone. So delete apps first and foremost. Secondly, delete social media accounts that you don't have to go into the account and delete it, but just delete the app. If you don't use TikTok that much, delete it. I don't use TikTok. I deleted that. Deleted LinkedIn, deleted Twitter. I don't use those accounts. That's the first kind of category of app, so to speak. Delete different messaging accounts. I tried to consolidate all mine. I got rid of Marco Polo, which is a messaging app that works through videos. I had that, deleted that. I deleted Telegram, gone. I deleted Signal, gone. And I pretty much just use WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. Another thing that I've done is, like I said, I tried to get as many people to WhatsApp as possible so I don't have to check my phone for text messages and calls as much, because I ask people to call me through WhatsApp, call me through, pretty much just WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, because they're the ones that I can check on my laptop pretty easily. Yeah. So just delete as many apps as possible, social media apps, any apps, and messaging apps. Delete, 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 delete as many as possible. The next one's a little bit of a controversial one, but it's something that I've found really supportive, and that is deleting as many online friends as possible. It might sound negative, but it's not because I don't like them. It's just because, if I'm going to be really honest, I just don't have the bandwidth to stay properly connected to 5,000 people. It's like I barely keep in touch with my closest 5 or 10 friends regularly, let alone 5,000 people. And so I'm inviting you to go through your Instagram followers and just delete as many of them as possible. Not the ones you actually want to stay connected with, but just the ones that you don't even know who they are. This is not about being a savage and I don't want to connect to anyone. For me, it's about reversing the automated way that we live in modern society and kind of going a little bit more old school. So for me, I actually really want to connect with my friends in the real world. I don't want to have virtual relationships with everyone. I want to be able to with the people that I know are important connections, but the other ones, I don't need that. I want to meet people in person at events. I'm going to see Sadhguru speak in Melbourne on Sunday. I would love to meet someone there and have some great connection and I'm going along with my partner, but invite some friends along, and I'm really putting more conscious effort to spending more time with people in person and less time with people online, right? So that also means not only deleting people that I don't even know, or why am I even connected to this person? And then it also means muting. I've muted on Instagram because that's the main platform that I use. I've muted as many, there's two really interesting things that I've done here, like unusual things. I've muted everyone other than my clients and my closest friends and the thought leaders that I learn from the most, I really want to be like. I've muted every other news, like everything else in my newsfeed, everything else in my stories on Instagram, so I just don't see it. Yeah. The other thing that I've done is if you go to the search screen on Instagram, and it's there's a lot of suggested content in that search screen, right? If you go into the settings in Instagram, you can choose terms of different types of content that you want to avoid being presented to you in that search screen. So you can use phrases. So for me, I know the kind of content that gets me addicted, that I'll see, and it just leverages my humanity, my kind of flaws in a way as a person, and just has me look, kind of pulls me into the short-term gratification, pulls me into the addiction. Men will resonate with this, women, this is just how it is for most people. But if I see like a good-looking woman wearing revealing clothing, it just grabs my attention. I don't want it to, but it does. So any of that kind of thing, you can hold in on that search screen and click show less of this content or hide. And so I do that to teach Instagram, hey, I don't want this, don't want this, don't want this, don't want this. And then in the back end in the settings, I'll say like bikini shots, that kind of thing. I also don't want news stuff, so I'll put news. I'm quite into the UFC, but I can get stuck in kind of scroll holes around it and it grabs my attention. So in the back end, mixed martial arts, MMA, UFC, a lot of the big fighters' names, I've put all search terms to avoid showing me that kind of content. Then when I go to my search screen, it shows me basic stuff that doesn't pull me in, less dramatized stuff. So that's all under the category of the third key, which is delete, cleanse, purify your phone. So it's got less of a pull over you, right? I need that. It's just a foundational basic. It just makes it a little bit easier. It's not going to solve the whole problem, but you may as well make it easier for yourself. If I went onto Instagram and I hadn't put all those search terms for Instagram to avoid showing me, and then I go to search someone that I need to send a message to, and I start seeing all these bikini shots and I start seeing all this UFC content, boom, it's going to grab my attention and I won't even notice, and I'll be like looking at certain things or seeing different MMA news, and it's just a waste of my time. And if I never had that presented to me, I wouldn't have been pulled into it. So I cleanse it, it makes it easier for me, right? So delete, delete, delete. That is key number 3. So the fourth key is turn your notifications off. Silence your phone. Actually, we're going to start that from scratch. The fourth key is a simple one. Turn your notifications off. If you have your notifications on in any app, you are making it so much more difficult for yourself to spend less time on your phone. Without notifications on, because I've had this off for a while, it didn't seal the deal. These are all contributing factors that are going to help you get your screen time down. But like I said, particularly 6 and 7 are really needed, those keys. But this fourth key, if you don't have this in place, it is going to be very difficult to keep off your phone, because it's just dinging, bing, 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 just kind of like pulling you in, pulling you in, pulling you in. It's going to make it so much more difficult if you have notifications on. But sometimes, because our mind wants to stay addicted to this, it wants to be fed the anxiety loop. Not because it's good for us, but because the fear mind wants to keep us under control, keep us sedated, keep us in this hypnosis, this robotic way of living. And so it wants to feed us these stories to keep us on. We might have a story like, well, what am I going to do if someone calls me? And it's this kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out of this world, right? So for me, I'm at the point where I'm so out of it, I don't care about keeping a foot in. I'm just willing to go, my life is too important for me to get sucked into this loop and spend 28 years of my life on this device, or 23 years, or whatever it would have been for me. It's just not cool. It's just so far. It's a boundary cross. It's like, no, that is not okay with me. And so if I miss someone's call, I'm okay with that. I'll call them back when I've got the space. But what would have happened 30 years ago? You're not just going to be at home waiting next to your wired phone, like your home phone, hope like just in case someone calls. If you miss the call, they'll leave a message and you call them back. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If no one in business, or I guess people might have this expectation now, but I certainly don't expect a colleague or a friend to just answer my call all the time. People have things to do. You can't be present with your life and also be just waiting by the phone in case someone calls. So I'm okay not having notifications on, especially with messages and emails. It's very business as usual to check emails once or twice a day and respond within 24 hours. That's fair enough. If someone doesn't respond to me for 3 or 4 days, I'll bump them and be like, okay, cool. Checking in, gentle reminder on this one. But if it's not 5 minutes, I'm okay with that. So simple one, key number 4, just turn your notifications off. No notifications at all on your phone are necessary. Simple as that. Let's go to number 5, because it's very similar. 4 and 5 are related, and that is silence your phone and also keep it on airplane mode when you're not using it. So it's kind of, 4 is like the little brother of 5. Because if you're implementing 5 and you got your phone on airplane mode, like my phone, it's always on airplane mode. It's on airplane mode right now. I always have my phone on airplane mode unless I'm waiting for a call or I've told someone to call me at a certain time, something like that. Or is something happening to my partner and she's a little bit unwell and I'm just want to make sure I say, hey, if you need me, call me. Then I won't have it on airplane mode and I'll turn it off silence. But other than that, it's always on airplane mode. Okay, that it's already difficult enough to measure to monitor my phone usage, let alone it's just like giving the phone an advantage that it's already got enough of a pull. If the average human being in the world is spending 7 hours on the device, the phone's winning. It's just winning the battle. It doesn't need any extra advantages. We need to give us the handicap, give us the help in this situation. So airplane mode, the phone. When you then want to go check it, you want to respond to emails and you want to message someone, then you can jump off airplane mode. But that's just such a simple one. And I'm not talking, just try it here and there. Have it on airplane mode the entire time you're not using it. It should be off airplane mode for 30 minutes a day. Because that's the goal. We want to be on our phone 30 minutes a day. Why would we need it unless there's some emergency or pre-organized thing? And like I said in step number 2 or 3, key number 2, you can use your laptop. That's where some extra screen time will go. So what I'm anticipating and what my experience has been, my laptop time has probably gone up by an hour, but my phone screen time has gone down by 4 or 5 hours. So it's not like I've taken my phone down and my laptop stayed as it is. It's increased a little bit. But because it's so much less addictive, the scroll holes don't happen as much. They still can, but so, like my experience over the last couple of months, it's way less, way less. So airplane mode, your phone, trust me, your whole life is gonna change because of this. Trust me on this. Your life is gonna change with this. It's such a big problem that when the problem gets removed, your life is gonna be so much more fulfilling and rewarding. Your anxiety is going to be so much lower. You're going to be able to have clarity on what you're choosing to do with your time. You're going to feel more joyful. You're going to feel more peaceful and more relaxed and less activated and reactive and stressed and overwhelmed. So it's going to be worth it. That's number 5. Okay, there are 2 more tips, and we're getting to the big ones here. The 7th is a really practical one, and it's a random thing you would have never heard of. But the 6th one right now is more of an internal shift. So let's just go to number 6. This is a huge one. And that is building on point number 1 of acknowledging the problem that it activates anxiety, that we spend on average 28 years of our waking life on our phone. That's a travesty. That is just, it's ridiculous. Building on that, none of these tips are going to work unless you make a decision now with me on this video right now, or at any time, but until you make this decision, none of this stuff's going to work. Make the commitment and the actual decision that you don't want to spend as much time of your life on technology. Make the decision that it doesn't serve you and you don't need it. Because if you have these tips, but in the back of your head, you're like, but I want to be on YouTube all the time. I want to be listening to audiobooks. That's what the average person would say. That's a really healthy use of time, the audiobook. I'm being a bit perfectionistic here and potentially a little bit advanced or really challenging you, but I don't think it's super healthy. Like I've spent over $750,000 learning on courses, mentors, retreats, mini programs, books, teachers. I've spent a lot of money, coaching certifications on learning. I'm obsessed with learning. I'm reading a book. And like I said, I'm trying to reverse and go back into older school times and ways that are a little bit more slow paced, that matches the way my body and mind was designed to function and live a bit more. Yeah. And so that for me meant retaking up reading books, like physical books. I read as a kid. I actually won the readathon as a kid, the competition of who can read the most books. Read like 150 books in a few months. I used to read a lot as a kid because guess what I didn't have? A phone. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have YouTube. So I read a lot. And then as I got into high school, I stopped reading and I started doing other things to spend my time. And so from age probably 15, I'm going to say, to 29 or 30, I read every now and again, but I barely read physical books. So an example of how I've taken this decision on board to not be on my phone as much, for me, it's meant acknowledging that I'm actually going to have to let go of some things that I'm currently used to or attached to with my phone. I'm used to, because for me, a big one was I've got YouTube videos up when I drive. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not watching the YouTube videos. It's not like playing with like a video where I've got to watch the screen, but just people teaching, talking. A lot of it for me were MMA videos, UFC videos, Formula One videos, sport essentially, and learning and stuff. And it's something that instead of just sitting there and being present with the person, if I'm driving by myself, actually. So instead of just being present in the car with myself, with my thoughts, letting what I've just done before getting in the car assimilate and integrate, having some presence, I had to entertain myself. I needed to be doing something on the phone. And I'd also call people. I always call in a chat, call to chat, call to chat. And I would do little sneaky things that aren't the best things to do, like checking messages, checking my emails, thinking about things, looking things up. And I'd do it in between driving when I'm stopped at a traffic light. And it's this constant, my life is so based and addicted and attached to the use of this phone. And so tip number 6 is making a decision that you don't want to live that way anymore. It's a really different, we could even say weird, because weird is something, anything that we don't understand or are uncomfortable with, feel unsafe around, we call weird, right? In the past, people that meditated, to me, I thought they were weird. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you waste your time doing nothing? And now it's not weird at all. I'm a meditation teacher. So it is weird because the average person spends 7 hours a day on screen time. To go, I'm not living that life anymore, is a weird thing to do. You're going to be in a very rare few people that aren't spending half of their time on their phone, or just under half of their time on their phone. So I'm challenging you and inviting you. Make a decision to stop this. Stop this addictive, reactive, distraction-based, stressful way of being on the phone, and just make a decision. You want to learn to live without it. Because, not without it, you can still use it when it needs to be used. But find a way to live without the attachment to the phone. This has been what's been made the biggest difference over the last couple of months with me. I've just said, that's enough. And when I acknowledged key number 1 of acknowledging the problem and realized I don't have control over this. It's causing anxiety for me. The quality of my life's massively down. The quantity of my life that I'm losing is obscene. I don't want that. I'm willing to let go of watching all these extra videos. Because for me, as someone that likes learning, I'm sure you're the same if you're watching this video and you're on this channel. I can only integrate and implement and embody a select few teachings at a time anyway. I can't, if I'm watching an Andrew Huberman YouTube video and then I flick onto a Jordan Peterson YouTube video, then I flick onto a Ajahn Shanti, a spiritual guru video, I can't take what I learned from each of those 3 people and implement it in the same day, in between activities, when I'm about to get out of the car and go do something else. I can't implement that. I've only got a certain amount of bandwidth anyway. So I choose, as a really healthy, slowing down, beautiful self-love practice, I'm going to call it, of winding down before bed by reading. That to me is giving me some information that I can choose consciously. Hey, I want to go deep in my posture. So I'm going to read a book on that. I'm going to spend a month reading this book each night and think about it more consciously. Integrate some of the learnings with the space I have in the car instead of more information, more information, more information. Making a decision, I'm not going to live this way anymore. And I'm going to actually tweak and really change the way that I interact with my life. Because there's a big difference between 7 hours of use a day and 30 minutes. That means you've got 6.5 hours where the phone's not in use. Another thing for me, for example, is that instead of just having maps up, I'll actually go a little bit more old school and I'll look up the directions and I'll do my best without the navigation of telling me exactly where to go and checking it all the time. See if I can get there without the GPS. Obviously, I look up where I'm going in advance, but what did we do 20 years ago before the phone? We had things in Melbourne called the Malways, and that was like a big, thick book of the maps of all the streets around the whole of our state in Victoria and Australia. We'd have to look up where we're going and figure out the directions manually. We did that for a long period of time. And it's not that I want to do that, because that'd just waste my time. But I can just look up the maps, not have it up the whole time, which makes it easier for me because I see the phone usage similar to sugar. I don't know if you've ever tried to quit processed sugar, but I don't really eat processed sugar very often at all now because I'm a massive sweet tooth and I was hugely addicted to it, right? And at some point I went, okay, I'm scared to do this. I kind of don't want to do this, but I know my life's going to be better if I do. And I just stopped having processed sugar. Within a day, all the cravings and addictions went. And I've done it multiple times and then relapsed back into it. But for a good solid year or so recently, I've been managing it and not really having much processed sugar at all, maybe once every 3 or 4 months. But I still have sugar. I have fruit. I'll make banana ice cream. It's super yum. I have treats. I'll have fruit and cream, and I'm going off topic here. But it's not like the way that I see phone usage is similar to that sugar. If I have a little bit of sugar, processed sugar, and I'm just like, you know what, I'll have a row of sweet chocolate, processed sugar. The next day, my mind's thinking about it. It might not be super obvious, but in the back of my mind's actually thinking about that sugar, and it's thinking, I need to get that, because the sugar's used to block and hold down stress, kind of distract away from stress in the body, but it actually creates more of it because it feeds the stress. So if I'm on the maps, right, it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm just in a scroll hole. It's in the background while I'm driving. But to me, it's kind of like, I've noticed the effect is if I'm on maps, I just whip it out, it's easier to get into a scroll hole after, or my mind remembers, okay, the phone and that exposure to that distraction and that device. So then when I get out of the car, I'm more likely to use my phone again. If I'm not using my phone most of the time, 30 or so minutes a day, then when I go to use it, it's a really obvious, rare part of my day where I've got so much more influence over my use on the phone. If I'm always on it, on and off, on and off, on and off, averaging or culminating to 7 whole hours of the day on the phone, I don't know when I'm off it or on it because I'm always kind of on it. Whereas if I'm on it barely ever and I don't have it on maps and I've looked it up beforehand, then when I actually want to go and do something on the phone, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going onto the phone. I'm going to quickly do the thing and get back off it. And it creates this spaciousness around the use to see my usage, not just always be on it. So to summarize step number 6, you're going to have to do this, in my opinion, and my experience, because I haven't been able to ditch this addiction for most of my life until the last couple of months. And this has been a huge factor. You have to decide that you're not going to live like this anymore. You're done, gone. This ain't happening anymore. Done. See you later. Not using it. Not going to use my phone for extra entertainment. I'm going to learn to interact with real life. Live more wholesomely. Learn to not be in this dopamine hitting way where dopamine hit. Show me another TikTok. Entertain me. I'm bored. I'm going to watch a movie. Now I'm going to check email, check Facebook message, check Facebook notifications, check Instagrams, check TikTok. See you later, world of addiction. I'm going to actually put you to the side because I'm choosing to live in a new way now. That is a mandatory step for this. And you can do it. You can do it. I know it's hard. I know it's scary because our body doesn't want to let go of it. Our mind doesn't want to let go of it. I didn't want to let go of it. I was nervous as well. But life is so much richer without being a robot, essentially. And now I'm so much clearer. I can make better decisions. And just my nervous system is more regulated proactively in my life. Less anxiety. I'm spending way more time doing things that are actually fulfilling and enriching, like connecting to my partner, actually learning, reading books, going for nice walks, being of service and being of purpose, doing things like this. Because I got an extra 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day, right? It's so worth it. But you have to decide, not just, oh, I'll see how I go and I'll try to spend less time. You ain't going to spend less time. You got zero chance trying. You got to make a full decision If not, you've got zero chance. You must commit. All right, I've hit that point hard and I'm trusting you. If you want to do this, you can do this. You can do this. All right, let's go to the last point, and this is the big one. This is my secret weapon. I've never heard of someone doing this before, but it's been the thing that's changed my life more than anything else. It's funny, actually. A sandwich bag. A sandwich bag. Other than this video, because I wanted to save this till last, my phone lives in this bag. Zip. My phone lives in this bag. This is the biggest hack out of all of them, right? It's the biggest hack out of all of them. Sounds ridiculous, it's kind of weird, but my phone is always in this bag. Now, the reason it's so important is because the addictive nature of the phone is so intense. You know this experience. You don't even know when you're on it or not. You don't even notice yourself pick it up, right? If you pick up the bag, to use the phone is effort. Pick up the bag, open the bag, go on the phone. Now, it might seem insignificant, but that step between, oh, I want to get on my phone, that step of the thought to try to trick you into that stress response, that your mind's trying to get into that addiction, and having to pick it up and get inside here makes all the difference. For me, it's made all the difference. So the phone has to stay in the bag. The second that I've done using it, because I use it, I do stories on Instagram for content. I will call someone every now and again. I want the benefits of the phone when I need it, but just most of the time I don't need it. I'm just a victim to the addiction. So the moment that I'm done with it, this is what I'll do. Bag, it's a sandwich bag. It's part of a packet of 20 that I got for $2 or something. Close the bag, done, on the couch. It doesn't just sit in front of me. It's not in my pocket. It's sitting somewhere in the bag. If I go out, because I've made that decision, which is key 6, that this is key 7, the bag, because I've made the decision, I only go on the phone when I absolutely need to. So I don't need to check things. I'm making a decision not to do that. Only if I want to or there's something to check, do I check. And I'll do it on my laptop, not the phone. So I don't need the phone most of the time. I literally barely use it. I charge my phone now. I know this is an extreme, weird situation because it's so different to the level of addiction that pretty much everyone has. But I'll charge my phone every 3 or 4 days because the battery lasts 3 or 4 days because I'm not using it all day. So instead of 7 hours, it's 30 minutes. So I barely have to charge my phone. I barely charge my phone. If I leave my phone in the car, I don't give a crap. Because what am I even going to need it for? I'm under the illusion most of the time that I need it all the time, but I actually don't. It's an illusion. And so the bag creates an extra barrier between myself and the use of the phone. The thought, which is not coming from my higher self, my best self, of, okay, cool, I wonder if that person got back to me. Jump on the phone, check Instagram, check Facebook, check email, check my calendar, check the weather. Why do I need to do any of that stuff? I don't. My mind's just tricking me that I do. So now with the bag, I'm acknowledging this truth. I'm not just victim to the illusion. I'm free from the illusion. And the bag's a symbol of that for me. It's funny, I kind of treat it like it's a bad device. I don't want to be too negative towards it, but it's like, get in the bag. Like, I've got control over you. You're not controlling my life. You're not going to waste 28 years of my life. Get in the bag. See you later. You don't have space to take up my time in life. I'm not giving you that control over me. I've got control. Get in the bag. Live in the bag. And I keep my phone in the bag most of the time. In fact, I'm a little bit sneaky. If I'm around other people and I do really want to know something, I'll just ask someone else to look it up. Because I don't want to get my phone out of the bag, get on the phone, check all the messages. If I look something up quickly on someone else's phone, I'm not going to check their messages. I'm going to check their Instagram. So I'm barely on the phone now. I've just decided I ain't using this stuff anymore in a compulsive, addictive way. Stuff that. See you later, buddy. So get yourself a Snaplock bag, one with a sliding zip, not just one that you can pull open, because the sliding zips, it is an extra bit of effort. Be done with it. Now, that's that. Very easy. But 6 and 7 go together. All these steps are important. However, before we finish, the last thing I'm going to say, and it's a big one, I'm going to leave an open loop here. I'm going to keep you thinking about this. When you give up this addiction, the reason that you were addicted in the first place, other than the fact that the phone's addictive, is that your body is not wanting to experience uncomfortable feelings. So if you get in an elevator and there's a bunch of people, it's just awkward silence, it feels uncomfortable, get on the phone to reprieve that uncomfortable feeling versus just standing there and sitting in the awkward silence. And so we have uncomfortable emotions under the surface, and when you open up a can of when you go, you know what, I ain't using the phone much anymore, and you're only doing 30 minutes a day, there is going to be some uncomfortable feelings that surface. Like you might be all of a sudden having a low day or a down day, or you might need to cry. It sounds intense, but the sedation rhythm and that constantly being in that habit of being sedated and distracted, what are we distracting from? Discomfort internally. So beware, it will come up. And I highly recommend checking out some of my other content and watching some of my podcasts on emotional healing and understanding how that works, so that when the emotion and the discomfort comes up, you know how to support that and you don't just cave back in to using your phone all the time. This will change your life. I'm celebrating the crap out of you for watching this video because it's a big deal and this will solve the problem. Boom! Control over the phone. The phone's not controlling you. If you got value from this video, let me know what you learnt in the comments or any other content you want me to share around, and click that like button and that subscribe button because I'd love to see you in future videos. So much love, beautiful humans, and I'll see you next time.